then another human being gets to decide what you are, what you stand for, what can be expected of you, because you are not being intentional in crafting that yourself. And it's a big gamble on your life to invest in these things and consuming as opposed to actually producing and creating. I don't really think that's what locking in means that you have to isolate yourself away from the world and the abundance of the world. Say you want to retire by 45 or by 30 or by 60, whatever your age is, what do I need to start putting in place? So we're approaching spring, which is effectively nature's rebrand, rebirth, and reset. And you may be in need of one of these as well. Winter challenged a lot of us with highs and lows, but I'm still very inspired for this next season, this next 90 days. I was recently invited to the Brit Awards. I hit 150k here on YouTube and also launched Rencol, and we're having our first in-person event in central London. And with all that being said, I really want to laser focus in on this season and share the things that I think will allow us to flourish in this new part of life. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video, the ins and outs for spring, from finances to skills to branding, those really key things that can help move the needle in your life. I'll also share helpful resources so that you can actually take the next steps. You have practical and tangible things to work with. So let's just get into it. The first thing on this list is following trends and allowing our personality and plans for this season to be dictated by others and the internet in general. It is almost a disease of this generation that we are allowing our whole lives to be dictated by others, feeling that we have to follow certain paths, certain trends, certain aesthetics and ways of being in order to be successful. And it's just not true. It's just not accurate. And if we're really talking about a rebirth and a rebrand and reset that is true to us and authentically reflects the things we want in life, then we can't just be copying and pasting from others. It makes no sense. And don't get me wrong, this can be quite challenging because at the beginning of a journey or a reset, you can start to feel lost or like you're not quite sure what it is that you're trying to build. But in terms of outs, we really have to leave that kind of mindset and approach to our lives in the last season. And so if that's out, then what's in is introspection. Scary with our own thoughts, but in reality, if we are going to be building out the next season and rest of our lives in alignment with us, then it's going to take us understanding us, what we like, what's important to us, what lights us up, what fills us with that kind of passion and drive for life. And there are a few tools and approaches that I like when it comes to introspection and really drawing out that data on yourself so that you can get to know you more. The first thing I really like to do is analyze my watch history and the things that I'm interacting with, the people that I'm following, right? What kind of lives are they living? What kind of activities do they do? And you'll find common themes and patterns that are running through the things that you're interacting with, right? If we have spent all these hours and time, online, on Instagram, on YouTube, on X, whatever, then why not pull out that data for our own use to actually improve our lives? But be careful because you want to think about the things that are actually lighting you up, like I said. Not things that you look at and you're like, this doesn't really make me feel good, but this actually is something that is drawing me in. So take that data and with an analytical approach, use it for your benefit. And another great thing is journaling. And actually, it doesn't really matter the format that you do. You pick the one that makes sense for you. People like video journaling or audio journaling, right? Like just speaking into their phone. And for a lot of us, it involves writing. Morning pages is something that I love. It's a brain dump at the beginning of the day that just gets all your thoughts on paper. But you often can start to see themes. And again, we're using a data-driven approach to this to draw out common patterns, things that keep rearing their heads. Maybe it's positive things, maybe it's negative things that are a sign about where you might want to go. A final thing that you can do in terms of introspection is actually looking back at your childhood. Now, this again can be a great source of information and data on the things that you're naturally drawn to, right? Before society told you what you should be doing and what wasn't cool, and what wasn't going to get you a job, what were you drawn to? In childhood, I loved things like storytelling, reading. I loved speaking to the adults and asking them questions about the world, right? It was really funny. Like in my nursery book where they review things, it was like, Adama enjoys spending time with the nursery staff as much as she does with the other children. Like she'll go and seek them out. This is still something that is reflected in my life and the life that I'm trying to build in this new season, right? I also always loved drama in terms of like acting and well, I guess hearing me on YouTube and being in front of a camera, it makes sense. So think back to your childhood and try to draw out the things that really did, again, excite you and that you naturally lean towards, because that can be a sign of what you want to be focusing on in this new season. In terms of resources, we have the book Ikigai, which is kind of thinking about the intercept between what you're interested in, what the world needs, what you're good at, also to an extent what you can also monetize. So that can be a really good book and place to get started. I've already spoken about morning pages, but you can also read the book The Artist's Way if you want to dive deeper into what morning pages are, why they make sense in a creative world, but also when you're trying to build anything at all. And then finally, I'll leave a few of the videos where I discuss some of the things I've spoken about here, like using your watch history and childhood and things of that nature. So let's move on. The next out is ignoring the impact that your personal brand is having on your life and attracting the opportunities that you want. A lot of us are passively waiting around hoping that things are going to come to us, but we're not being deliberate and intentional in the brand that we are crafting and the way that we are presenting to the world. I was watching something and they encapsulated this perfectly, that you have a personal brand, whether you know it or not. All of us do. Some of them are smaller, right, than others, but all of us that exist in this world are being received by other people. And if you're not intentional about your personal brand, then another human being gets to decide what you are, what you stand for, what can be expected of you, because you are not being intentional in crafting that yourself. You're effectively letting somebody else control your narrative, which is quite a big gamble. And somebody who's seen the way that a strong personal brand attracts the right type of opportunities from those events, from my channel, from my six-figure tech career, all of these things, speaking gigs, I really don't take this for granted. So that's out, ignoring that. So what's in then is being intentional about your brand, about how you want to show up in this world. It's about taking the time in this season to think about what you are trying to attract, right? And what it is that you want to be interacting with, people, opportunities, and therefore how you can build something, how you can be on platforms, but also in person in a way that allows those things to be drawn to you so that you become a magnet effectively. And when you're building this brand with whatever platform you choose to be on, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, it is really about thinking about how you can create a cohesive story, a narrative about you. It doesn't have to be every portion of you, but you also don't have to hide things that you want the world to know about you as well. So let's talk about resources. If you're wanting to show up and build a brand with YouTube, I have my free 7-day resource guide, which will get you to your first video in 7 days or less. And you can access that in the description. I also have got a few videos that I have done on branding, right? And how to put yourself out there in an effective way. And I also have, if you're in London next month in April, we're having our in-person event where we're talking about branding, and especially as someone with multiple passions and interests. So those are some resources for you there. The next out for spring is spending hours in a state of consumption, whether you are scrolling through Instagram and YouTube, or whether you are binging Netflix, right, and Prime and things of that nature. You're in a state of overconsumption. Now, this can be, again, another really challenging thing, because consuming allows us to numb ourselves from some of the pains and stresses of our lives, right? We don't have to think about things because instead we are engrossed in whatever is in front of us. That image, that video, that movie. But this is a really, again, dangerous game to play, and it's a big gamble on your life to invest in these things and consuming as opposed to actually producing and creating. It's also very dangerous because a lot of us are consuming things that are of low quality or fail to enrich our lives. And so this is why this is an out for spring, and what we're bringing in is investing in hobbies and skills and the act of creation. Again, I think this is very in line with spring and blossoming, but we really have to be involved in the act of creation because so much comes from it. Not only do you develop these skills that can be really useful in building careers and businesses and lives that you want, but also in terms of hobbies, you actually start to enrich your life and get from the act of creation something that you cannot get from consuming. There is an innate feeling when you see the work that you have created, like with me in painting or with video creation. That feeling there is unrivaled. And the thing is, it's not about being perfect or having this innate talent from the start, right? When it comes to painting, I, for most of my life, like I've said before, believed that I wasn't good at art, that I wasn't a creative in that sense. But it was only when I stepped away, when I moved away from that overconsumption and took time out to learn this new thing, to seek out information and develop the skill that I could enjoy it. I am still very much in the early stages of this, but it has been great. And it doesn't have to be videos or painting. It could be crocheting, it could be music. It doesn't really matter. It is just the act of creating and developing skills and hobbies that allow you to do so. In terms of resources, we have the book Range, which is really about a different approach to acquiring skills and knowledge and information and hobbies that I think could be very useful, especially if you're a multi-passionate person like myself. But also I have quite a few videos on my channel discussing this topic. Also how to learn new skills, right? How to learn any skill despite where you're starting from. And also how to start with a creative pursuit with getting just the minimal information that you need to get going. The next out is about being isolated and locking yourself away from this world, and also about being around people that drain you and that you know are not right for you. So let's start off with the isolation point first. A lot of us are spending vast periods of time alone. We're not connected with our communities, even spending less time with friends. And we know that loneliness it's almost an epidemic of this period, right? Lots of young people are feeling like they are disconnected from the world. and it's causing problems, right? There's a ripple effect of being isolated for long periods of time. We aren't able to connect with people and their energy, the positive influences they could have on our lives and our knowledge and our business, but also just being able to vibe and bounce off of people. That is gone. And in this new season, we really have to leave that isolated nature alone. As much as people will be like, lock in for 3 months and you don't have to see anyone, I don't really think that's what locking in means that you have to isolate yourself away from the world and the abundance of the world. But I also said something else in this out, which is about being around people who drain you, people that you know are not right for you, or worse, are having a negative influence on you. Because of that fear of loneliness, some of us are spending time with people that we know we shouldn't be. We just know we shouldn't be around them and that they're not having a positive impact on our lives. And yet we stay. We stay because we are fearful of being alone. And that can be just as bad, if not worse, as being isolated. And that's why both of these are out for spring. But what's in is joining communities, groups, attending events with like-minded people, like-minded individuals that you have common themes and outlooks on life and shared hobbies, but also a desire and a drive to be more, to grow, and to be out there in the world. I have seen the impact of this in my life so much, about connecting with people that I have shared interests with. That doesn't mean that we are exactly the same. Of course we are not. We live completely different lives. But we can connect on these things and vibe and learn from each other and get that energy. Some of my biggest opportunities have come from these communities, have come from these groups and these people that I'm interacting with. Again, not just online and in the communities we form here, but also in person. Right? So much of what we need from life is also about that face-to-face contact. So what do we have in terms of resources? Well, like I said, I launched Renko, which is a community for women with multiple passions and interests who have a genuine curiosity and ambition in life. They want to be more, grow more, but they don't want to box themselves in. So there is that community if you're interested in that. But there are lots of groups and discords online that will align with, again, your outlooks on life and your interests and your skills. And it's about seeking those out. If you want to attend in-person events, we have things like Eventbrite, which I pretty much think works in multiple countries. I know it's obviously very big here in the UK, but I also think it's in the US. But get out there, find things. It doesn't even have to be like a commitment to a membership, right? Some people are joining membership groups and clubs and private member clubs. Like I know Soho House is very popular and so forth. So find things that work for you and with the resources that you have. Lots of them will be free, some of them will be paid, and work with what you want and what aligns with you in this new season. The next out on this list is not spending money with intention and actually spending money on things that we think are going to fill a void and make us feel better, and in reality they are not. One of the reasons this is so important, we have to let it go in this new season, is because money is a representation of time and effort, right? A lot of us, of course, are spending hours at work in our 9-to-5 or our business in order to acquire this money. It's an exchange of time and effort and energy and skills. And time is something so precious that to use it effectively, to buy things that are not enriching our lives, that are not really helping us, again, move the needle forward or become a better version of ourselves, is another very big gamble, right? We can't get that time back. So every time that you purchase something, right, say it's £100 and it took you several hours to make that £100, think about it like that. Like in this new season, I actually want you to think about things that you're buying in terms of time instead of money. As much as I'm not against buying and shopping and getting cute things, I am against exchanging large amounts of our life force for things that are not really adding to us because it's in someone's Amazon storefront or they told you it's part of an aesthetic pack. And so if that's out, then in is being smart with our money. It's about being intentional with our purchases. It's about investing in experiences, in hobbies and skills that are going to, again, enrich our lives. It's about thinking about our future and the assets that we might want to start investing in to build up for that. Say you want to retire by 45 or by 30 or by 60, whatever your age is, what do I need to start putting in place, right? If I want to know that I want to take time off and have these like mini retirements, what do I need to put in place? And this really intentional thought about money is going to be key in this new season, in this rebirth and rebrand. So it's actually an interesting time because I think there is a lot of content right now about reducing consumption or being more intentional, and even things like no spend months and things of that nature. But if you're looking for a resource that's more about investing in assets and like thinking about retirement and stocks and shares, then I actually recorded an episode with a wealth manager that I have on Spotify that you can check out there if you want more information on getting started. The next out for spring is moving our bodies in one way, whether you are a Pilates yoga girl or more of a lifting girl or a running girl, kind of only boxing yourself in the movement of your body in one way. The human body is phenomenal. It's a marvel and it's able to do so much, but it also requires different types of movement. I know especially for a lot of us who work at a desk all day, this is even becoming more important, right? As we grapple with the idea that our backs and our necks and all these sorts of things are being impacted by how we work in the day. So we really have to start to think about flow. And in terms of what's in, it's about allowing our body to move and be explored in different ways, right? Again, with spring, with blossoming, with this new rebirth, we should be thinking about giving our body the things that it needs that may be different to what we're used to. For me, it's looked like aerial yoga for the last 12 weeks in a row. Well, there was a little gap between Christmas, but besides when they were closed for Christmas, I have not missed a week of aerial yoga. Some weeks I've gone twice. And if you know me and my channel, then you know I'm a lifting girly. Like I love weights and I continue to do that every week as well. But I'm moving my body in different ways, right? I get 10,000 steps every day. So I'm walking and we have light cardio. I'm doing aerial yoga. So that's moving and stretching my body in new ways. Things that I actually find fun. I actually enjoy it more than normal yoga. So there's that, but that's just a personal preference. The point here is find activities and ways of moving your body that are different to what you usually do, right? If you are usually that sort of girl with yoga, have you considered strength training? Have you considered maybe something like cycling and running and getting your body moving in those ways and flowing? So my camera actually overheated, which is the first time this has happened to me whilst I've been recording. But you know, such is life, c'est la vie. But I was talking about resources. Wellness is huge right now. So there are a lot of one-off events that you can go to, and wellness that's being combined with community as well. If you don't have access to those things, YouTube has a wealth of resources. You can do yoga from home. I mean, running doesn't involve all that much, although I know there's safety concerns and resources in terms of the right trainers. But if you want to get walking and running, that's an option. Even things like dance, there are routines that you can learn basically here on YouTube for free. So there's a wealth of resources in that sense. The final out for spring is actually spending too much time inside, right? Being locked up in basically man-made structures. Now, a lot of us are blessed to have a home, and that is not to be taken for granted. But we're spending a lot of time inside, right? In our homes, in our offices, even at the gym and things of that nature, which are all places that are very important to us, but we're not spending as much time outside. So if that is out, then what is in is spending time deliberately outside, whether it is going to your local park and enjoying things like the trees and the flowers and maybe a pond that exists, or taking day trips out and going a little bit further. Maybe it's to the beach, maybe it is to a forest or things of that nature. And even scaling up, going on holidays that involve you being immersed in the natural world. I recently came back from Iceland, which is an amazing experience, and I'm looking to go away again and be immersed again. I feel like I am in need of that natural kind of surrounding again for a longer period of time. And so do what works for you, again, with the resources that you have, with what makes sense right now in your stage of life. But that's it. And happy spring. I hope that you enjoy this with whatever time of year you are watching it, because these things are applicable throughout. Yes, we are in a season of rebirth, but the reality is a lot of these things we need to be leaving behind and things that we need to be drawing into our lives. So I will see you in the next video.